Bill DeWeese, thank you so much for joining me to talk about your new book, in which you explore some of the ideas of earth care and this notion of not trying to save the earth, but care for it. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited about this conversation today.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Laura, as always.
So you joined a medical team trekking to remote villages in Nepal, and along the way you're seeing signs of change, including climate change. And you seem to be mulling this idea of hospice care for the earth. What does that mean? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, the values of the medical team I was accompanying were the values of very fundamental medicine. We didn't have access to x-rays or scans or blood work, let alone surgery. And so the service delivered was very direct. It was care over cure. It was warm hand to warm hand. And I wondered, going into the trek, whether those values of caring more than fixing would be good values to apply to earth care. This book is really the third book in a trilogy. The first book, A Great Aridness, is on climate change. The second, The Last Unicorn, looks into the terrible situation of wildlife and the loss of biodiversity. And after doing those two books, I was kind of heartsick, and I was looking for a way to be able to look at the facts of these dire situations directly and not lose heart, not be too discouraged, not become numb or cynical or even just shut down, but stay committed, not lose heart. So this book is about my journey trying to find a way not to lose heart, but to sort of gain heart and recommit to the work that needs to be done.
You wrote in the book, "Let's be real, we don't live in the gentle Holocene anymore." And no doubt this summer especially is proving that. And throughout the book you grapple with this idea when it comes to climate change. And eventually in the book you write, "To trust in the uncertainty of the future, believing in the possibility, however remote, of beneficial change, that is the essence of hope." And I feel like for me personally, this idea of hope, it kind of throws me off sometimes because I don't know if it's a slogan, if it's kind of an insincere promise, if it prevents me from maybe doing what I'm supposed to do. And so I loved your writing about hope in this book, and I'm curious, why is uncertainty of not knowing what might happen such an important part of hope?
That's the heart of it in a way. As you say, hope is a really complicated concept. It means different things to different people, and often for a lot of people it just means, will this worry go away? Will things go back to the nice way they used to be? And that's out of the picture for us today. But the kind of hope that relies on endurance, on being open and prepared for things to turn in a positive way, for beneficial surprise, that's the kind of hope that's going to get us through the dilemmas we're in now. And in a way, this quest of mine was looking for not just an intellectual hope, but a hope in here, a hope that seeps into your whole being. And watching those doctors provide service to hurting people in that remote area and watching that exchange of goodness was a real lesson to me. One of our watchwords, slogans in the clinics was strong back, soft front. And that's what I kept seeing these people applying. They were resolute, they were ready for emergency, these doctors and nurses and other practitioners, and yet they were always open to the people they were working with. And that was inspiring to me, and that was a kind of hope in action, I thought.
So you Mentioned beneficial surprise. Are there any examples of those out there in the world right now, or that we might look forward to when we're thinking about climate change?
Well, specifically about climate change, I don't know. All the data looks pretty negative. The big beneficial change that I mention in the book actually is that of the collapse of the Soviet Union. The CIA didn't see it coming. Nobody saw it coming. And when it came really fast. And some leaders like Václav Havel, who is one of my heroes, were ready for it because he had the right kind of hope to respond to that surprise as positively as possible and make something really good out of it, which was the Velvet Revolution in Czechoslovakia.
So I appreciated reading this book for lots of reasons. The hope, lots of reasons. But in particular, not having left New Mexico since before the pandemic started, I needed to go on this journey with you through the Himalayas. But you've lived in New Mexico for 4 decades now. What were some of the similarities that you noticed in the change that you're seeing, including climate change, in the Himalayas and here in northern New Mexico?
Well, on these journeys, we were mostly above timberline. But when we were below timberline, the forests were so similar. The pine that's in Nepal, up to about 11,000 feet or so, is a pine very like a ponderosa pine, another 3-needle pine. And it was interesting to me to see that those trees had the same health problems that our trees, I mean, the forest dynamics of drying, of too much heat, of insect outbreaks, all those things seem to be happening there in exactly the same kind of pattern that we have here. So, and it was a mountain world. I live, as you know, an hour north of Santa Fe, up in one of the small villages of northern New Mexico. And the village life there and the village life in Himalayan Nepal is not all that different. They're both irrigated communities, interestingly enough. And I learned something about irrigation there. I learned about irrigation at a level of higher art than I've ever seen it here in New Mexico, as a matter of fact.
So one of the ideas that you write about in The Last Unicorn, and it comes up again in your new book, that has really stuck with me over the years, is this idea that we share this planet with all of these different species. And we're just this little planet in a vast universe. And every time we allow a species to go extinct, our planet becomes a little lonelier. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that idea and how that idea evolved in you.
Well, you know, one of the inspiring teachers on this subject for me is a New Mexico Pueblo Indian scholar, Rena Swensel, from Santa Clara Pueblo. One of my favorite mini chapters in the book is really, well, it's titled Rena. And I quote her as saying, and I'll get the quote a little bit wrong here, but she's saying our world as humans has just become too small. It's just us. We're only thinking about us and not about the whole community of life through which flows the water, wind, breath, which in her telling sounds an awful lot like the Tao of ancient China. So she would say, she's gone now, alas, but she would say that our invention of anthropomorphic gods made us too arrogant, made us seeing the world too narrowly, and we forget about the whole creation of which we are a part, which is really the most glorious thing about our life on this planet, is the connectedness of all those things.
I loved that chapter on Rena. I wasn't expecting it, and I loved it. It was really, our New Mexico readers will especially appreciate that.
I hope so.
So like you mentioned, this book is the third in a trilogy, A Great Aridness, The Last Unicorn. I'm curious how, A Great Aridness came out in 2011. I'm curious how your writing has changed, how you bear witness now compared with back in 2011, and what you want from the reader at this point.
Golly, that's a question I've never thought about, what I want from the reader. I think one of the things that's changed for me is just to be more confident that I don't have to organize things ahead of time. I don't have to prepare as much. I can go into a trip or a writing effort and just figure it out as I go along. And I think what I most want from a reader is just an openness to take the journey with me, to just see what happens as well. I think this is a book that has a number of surprising turns and surprises in it. And if you stay with it a little bit, I think the rewards are there. But there's a certain amount of establishing matters, a certain amount of exposition that is required for the best part to make all the sense that it can. And I think in this book, the end resisted me for a long, long time. But finally now, I feel the end is the best part of the whole book.
Well, I was very happy to go on that journey with you, and I'm sure our viewers will be too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill, for joining me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Laura.